Yo, 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 yo. There's another session of Chatterbox. You got me, your host.
And you got me, Erwan, Gaudin. We got two guests of us today. Please introduce yourselves.
My name's Evette, and I've got a daughter of 20. She's going to be 28 this week, with autism.
Hi, my name's Vanessa, and I have a son who is 7, going to be 8 with autism.
Okay, so we've got these guests on the show today, and they're going to be letting us know how they cope with children with autism, and how they see the world and how it is for them, because it's a bit different. So who would like to start off today on the topic?
I can, no problem.
Yeah, but just feel comfortable. You lot can have a conversation. Don't feel like want to just get your experience out there so people can be aware of it and what's going on. Because other parents out there, what's going through, we've got children that with autism, and some of them are a bit freaking out and don't know what to do. So just try and put their mind at rest and let them know everything's going to be alright. That's all. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Right, for myself, so I was a young mother, my first child, and there was cousins. Thankfully, actually, when my daughter was born, she used to cry a lot, constantly cry, and I weren't too sure. And sometimes as parents and mothers, they say that you can differentiate your child's cry, why they're crying. And I've always said, no, not my daughter, her cry was always the same.
Okay.
Then I had another child a year later. So my children was a year and a week apart. So when I'm seeing my older daughter grow, and I'm realising there's something not right, not realising what it is.
Yeah.
She was much more active, wasn't able to kind of like follow instructions. Her talking was limited, and I'm seeing my younger child grow up, passing her. Anyway, from before 2, I was getting assessment. I pushed it through, had to push it through. It was a challenge. But I got an assessment, and they said that she's got behaviour problems and language delay. Okay. I just dealt with it, but I didn't really accept it to know that was what it was. Because I've got the 2 children, and they would have both had behaviour problems if it was part of my parenting. Anyway. Afterwards, just seeing how she is, and she's played by herself, but she had certain, because it was gifts.
Yeah.
So she knew her numbers could count to 100 from early. Could be, that's what she couldn't talk, but she could count.
All right, numbers.
So it could be 2. Her brain, I realised when she's older, it was photogenic. So she had lots of other gifts.
Okay.
Playing, there was a no-go of playing in a group, playing by herself. She used to throw, she used to hit. Yes. So she was very active, hyperactive, very active. But yes, I had my concerns. She went mainstream school. I would say that when she's gone to all these institutions, the teachers, probably because of my personality and my field of work. So I'm a youth worker as well. That's my background.
Okay.
I always knew how to deal with the professionals, went to every meeting, kind of like push things. She had a great specialist teacher that bonded with her as well in primary school. All right. And so she got all the support and help. She was statemented.
So, kind of, was communication a thing for your daughter?
So she didn't have friends in school, but everyone liked her. She's that child that she was loving.
Yeah.
So she would go, and like you were saying earlier about your son, when she was younger, I was frightened when I spoke to a stranger because she wanted to kiss them.
Yes.
She would go so far, she was a hug, and I think no.
Yeah.
So she was a likeable child. The thing that I've always realised though, she's a clash with the boys.
Okay.
And I end up sending her to a girls' school because I thought I don't want to hurt no one's son. Yeah. Clashing with my daughter because she was ready to fight them. Yeah. She did go. She did go secondary school and she clashed with girls, but they didn't mess with her. One girl tried to mess with her, and she fight them. They realised can't mess with her, so she set a pace for her sister as well. Yeah. So this is how people just said they knew that's Jamila. I was called down to school a lot because I would speak to the school and say if she's had a bad day, bad morning. And say she's not coming in today. And it could be from routine, it could be from not being able to express herself and the frustration. So me not knowing, but I did go on parenting classes. So it's been a very long journey.
I've heard, parenting class, I've heard about some courses you can go on to help you I don't know, to cope with the challenging behaviour and certain things?
I'm going to cut in there
Go.
because my journey is, it's so funny that it's like 20 years, but similar journey.
Yeah.
So my son is my second child. So I already had an experience of a child and a girl who excelled in everything, you know, potty training, everything was never a problem. And then Reese was born early. So he would have been classified as premature, but he was extremely big. So they didn't classify him as premature. But he slept. He didn't like interacting with anyone outside our family. So even when we used to take him to pick up Janae from school, when he was in the stroller, as soon as he would approach the school gates, he'd close his eyes and put himself to sleep so that he wouldn't have to talk to anybody. Similar to you, when he went to nursery, he didn't really communicate well. He had very limited speech, but again, he would power up. We call it the powering up, where if he couldn't communicate properly or someone was irritating him, you'd see the fists by the side, and he's going to power up because he's going to hit him, like he's going for him, right? And just like you, I find it so funny because I also was like, there's something there. I know there's something there. And they, again, said speech, language and behaviour. And I was like, yeah, well, you're not going to use that with me. So I work in education. So I work in secondary schools amongst senior leaders. I'm a senior leader. So I know what the HCPs are and I know all the scope. But I just thought to myself, you're not going to label him as behavioural. There is something else going on here. And I had the same stigma where they said they don't tend to assess a child for autism until they're over 7. So this is why statistically we have so many children with autism not being diagnosed until they're ready for secondary school.
Because my daughter was 9. I had to go and get the statement done.
And if you don't push as a parent, you don't get it.
Yeah.
But I knew there was something else going on with
Right.
Lucy. So, and having a bigger sister, he just was very lazy to talk, you know. But Reese was a complete opposite for a very long time. If he liked you, he liked you. If he didn't like you, God help you. You know. So there was an incident where he started primary school, and I was very, you know, I think as mothers, you're just thinking you're balancing life. So I just sent him to the same school as his sister, and she loved it there. Like my daughter is a kid who, she actually makes me sick because she loves school. She's that social butterfly. So I just thought he can go to her school. It's small, it would work. But Reese spent the best part of 2 years in that school sleeping. He had a boat. They made him a boat so he could go to sleep. Because Reese didn't want to interact with them. So rather than interact and communicate, he slept. And there was a particular... That was his coping mechanism.
Wow.
It doesn't like loud noises, but that was his coping mechanism. And no one in the school did anything with him, even though I'd made sure he had a statement. And there was... They're getting their money. And I made them know, I know you're getting your money and how much you're getting. Because I was also a governor. And there was a head teacher that used to come in and always play the ukulele. And his teacher, she was really good, would know to grab Reese, because I don't know what it was about this man, he couldn't stand him, and Reese would power up and go for him.
Oh wow.
You know, but it's just so funny that the journeys that you go through, because you know as a parent that there is something slightly different about your child. You can tell, and I had to make a really hard decision because I had 2 kids in one school, which is easy for me because I could drop them off and get to work. But I had to make a decision on if he's going to stay in mainstream, because he's not going to a special school, because he just sees the world differently.
Yeah.
You know, I had to think, do I keep him there till Janae's ready to leave, or do I move him now?
Right.
And I had to make a decision because he spent 2 years sleeping. That's his 2 years of primary school, sleeping. And I had to move him to another school, which is a mainstream school, but the difference was night and day, you know, because Reese is very scientific. He likes science.
Right.
You know, so he likes to know about the moon and the solar system and the, you know, spaghettification. but he won't do anything else. He doesn't. He wasn't a communicator with people, and like your daughter has so many friends. You know, when I moved him from that school, one of the reasons was he said he has no friends. Nobody likes him. No, because when Reese left, the whole school was like, "Bye, Reese, we're gonna miss you." He's got like a big poster, so he had friends. They just wasn't for him socially. They weren't a connection, you know. And it's the way in which their world works and how they see that connection. And now he goes to a new school, and again, it's the same thing. Like Reese is a complete social butterfly, but I think without his sister there to kind of pull him along, he's had to develop his communication and his own personality, as it were.
So, do you think his sister not being there, do you think that kind of helped him develop a bit more?
Yes, I think he was dependent on her.
They ended up becoming independent.
Because she was the oldest, he didn't have to speak because she would finish his sentences for him or tell them this is what he wants. And I think he became quite lazy in that, you know. Yeah, and his friends were her friends. So, he's her little brother, and like, oh, come on, and you go play. So he didn't have to form those relationships. I mean, to be honest, the teachers there weren't very good. They didn't have... I think every school has a SENCO, which is for children with special educational needs, but whether or not they're trained in what that is, I think there's a lot of onus on parents having to go out and do parenting classes in autism. But autism is such a wide range. How do you learn how to parent a child of autism? Because it goes from...
Can I ask a question on that?
Go on.
So, tell me about certain difficulties you had to cope with, like with him growing up.
Potty training, sleep deprivation. Reese never started sleeping through the night until he was about 5.
So what, were you like sleeping during the day?
So he'll sleep during the day and he'll be up all night. And then he'll still go to school.
Yeah.
He'll still go to school and then he'll crash out. Even now, Reese will go to bed about 8:30, 9 o'clock when some people go, my God, that's so late for a 7-year-old. I'm like, he's up at 5 o'clock, 5:30 and he'll do a full day. That's not a problem. That is just the way their clock works. Yeah. You know, they're not, they don't do long sleeping patterns. I've not met anyone who's got a child with autism and says, oh gosh, they sleep all the way through. Yeah. It is one of those things where you have to learn to cope with sleeping less. Yeah. So where most mothers get that breakthrough, I just never had that breakthrough. Yeah. I was constantly sleep deprived because he was up. You know.
Did you get any help? Did you like try to get a nanny or something?
Nanny, maybe not, on the budget that I'm on, but there isn't. You know, the doctors will tell you, well, try this and try that, but those are things with children who you would look at on normal developmental milestones. So even with potty training with Reese, took longer and was frustrating. Because I had a daughter who literally just one day said, yeah, I'm not wearing nappies anymore. And she was like 3. So I've gone from a 3-year-old who, you know, didn't have to do bottles, you know, very independent, to a 5-year-old, 6-year-old who's still wet in the bed, you know, who doesn't like anything wet on him. So when we took him swimming, I had to literally hold his clothes onto him because there's like anything wet.
I think boys are like that though. I've got a son like that. I think it might be a boy thing.
He's holding it on.
I think it might be a boy thing. I've got autism, but it's like that. You know, but the wet training was longer comparison. Same with me. It was my daughter learned early, but my older daughter, she took longer. Yes.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because you're thinking, well, what am I doing wrong? But it's just the way in which it's got to be in the same way. It's got to be consistent. And it's just that one thing we might do differently that we're not even realising we're doing differently will throw them off, you know?
All right, I want to bring in another question in there. So what about both of your daughters and son, their food habits? It's interesting because most children, they like to eat certain things, but, I forgot to say, So Vanessa is my sister. Yeah, and so I know she used to only eat certain things and like very picky. So I would like both of you to explain your experiences with your kids about their food habits, because I know it's very particular. So I would like to share your experiences.
Is it one of the things where they don't like their food touching each food? So like if they say that they have mash and peas, they don't want the mash and peas touching. Because I know like certain people.
Certain kids are like that. I've got a friend whose daughter's like that. Reese isn't like that. For him, it's texture and flavours. So even smells. Like if it smells different, he ain't gonna eat it.
And it's looks.
Right. You know, we had a church cookout and everyone had their food out. It's Caribbean food. And Reese literally walked in and just said, "What is that smell?" And the look of disgust on his face. He doesn't like, it's powerful smells. So he only eats spaghetti meatballs, bolognese, fried chicken, cucumbers, grapes, oranges, pizza. He doesn't eat anything else. But the crazy thing is, at school he will try things, but at home he won't. But he'll say, that's nice. So Daniel will always go to Reese, come on, try it. Because he tried to give him a banana and I said, he's not going to eat it. So, go on, Reese, try it. Gave him the banana and we said, thank you. And then he turned around and he threw it up in the bin. It's the texture. So they're very adamant about what they like and what they don't like.
Okay.
Some kids don't like things mixed up. Some of them do. It just depends on the child.
With my daughter, well, she's older now. She's an adult, so she's a bit more flexible. Because certain things I kind of broke it out of her. However, there's certain things I still allowed her. So one of the things she still eats from a little child up to today, same thing every single day, Weetabix for breakfast. And she makes it a particular way. It's dry as ever. Dry and sweet as ever. She does it the same way every morning. And I had a problem is, if we travel and we go away, what are you going to eat if there's no Weetabix? Yeah. So her routine is she would have bread and drinking chocolate or something hot to drink. So she knows that she spreads the bread and she will have that. So that's sort of rigid. We've gone away and I've tried to introduce her to other things. Yeah. So, but that became one of the things of good. At least she's got something else because she's not eating nothing. So she's got away on residential, and if that's not there, she's not eating nothing. Yeah. However, there's she took ages to eat pizza. It just seemed complicated. That was a no-go. She won't, if it's a certain colour, a certain look, tomato ketchup she doesn't have. No. I don't know if it's the red. Yeah. Coastal she won't eat as well. And soup. I used to have my battles with soup, and I had to come to that conclusion. I thought, okay, accept it. So when I'm making soup, I have to make the food bigger because she won't have the liquid. Yeah. Gravy she won't have. She won't dish out. She likes her food dry. Yeah. But soup, so I would have to give her the hard food, the meat, and no soup. So she would have it like a normal meal. She won't have soup. So I have to put things more bigger to say, I'm going to give that to her. That's from the soup. So, but now she's an adult. If I dish out her food, she would I put gravy and everything on there. Yeah. If she dishes out her food, everything's just carbs and dry. Very bland. Yeah. So we went to Jamaica and not seeing no green or nothing really, but it's just carbs, pasta. Yeah. Pasta, spaghetti. Yeah. Yeah. See, this is my problem. We're supposed to be going on holiday and I'm having anxiety. So I'm thinking I might have to send a barrel down because he's not going to eat anything. He will starve himself. He'll eat a cucumber. But he's not going, if he says he's not eating it, he's not eating it. I managed to break because I just thought, how are you going to cope? Certain things I said, I've got to try and break. You've got to be versatile in what you're eating. Because I just thought, but I had the advantage because she had her younger sister that was a year younger than her, and she mirrored a lot of the stuff. It used to irritate her younger sister sometimes. But then they say that girls with autism mirror quite a bit. Yeah. So did you find that was
helpful to
It
have
helped
her
me so much. It
Right.
did. I used to have sort of competitions with them, who can do this and who can do that
Yeah.
quickly, to get things routine in the morning, because I know I'm going to have something to
Yeah.
encourage her. However, with my younger daughter, could be brushing the teeth, because that would be a problem. Dressing could be a problem as well. Could be, I would say, choosing the clothes. I'm going so far back now, coming, but I know every morning I'm going to have some form of drama.
Right.
So it depends on their temperament as well.
Mm.
But her following her sister, she's very independent. Don't know if your son is.
Yeah.
Very independent, wants
Yeah.
to do everything herself.
Yeah.
And her mirroring her sister, that gave her that independent of watching her. Then after, she would emulate the same thing.
Yeah.
So that really did help me so much. Yeah.
It's quite interesting because, again, my daughter's friend only got diagnosed when she went to secondary school with having autism.
Right.
And I just find it quite interesting that boys get diagnosed quicker than the girls.
I've also heard that the girls, they can not conceal it, but cover it up more than boys. So they're more. It's harder to kind of spot the signs because they're better at covering up. I don't know if that's true. Like,
Yeah,
you touch
no.
on that on that.
Do you think it has something to do with like how girls tend to mature more quickly than boys? Like they might
It
fall
could be.
under that same.
It could be. It could be. I mean, the girls that I've seen, and even girls at work, because I work in secondary schools, and I have a teacher actually who has autism. They've all spoken about the fact that there is that kind of social gathering of girls that girls have, where they all grow up quite quickly, so therefore they are all copying one another anyway. So I think a child with autism just takes on board that the girls we're all following this trend, because girls do follow trends, you know, whereas boys, and I only know from secondary school and this one, they tend to be quite boisterous and wild for a while, and then I'll see my year 9s or my year 10s, and all of a sudden they're young men. Whereas from year 7, 8, and maybe year 9, they're still full of this energy, and then they come into their own. So I think that's why boys possibly, get diagnosed before, because they boys don't follow trends unless it's football or something like that. So I don't know.
I know the thing is sometimes with boys, and I've seen it, and I think it's unfair, like ADHD, they're quick to give that out as well. And they diagnose a child with autism, ADHD, and I think, no. And that's what I said is,
I mean, I think it's because the spectrum for autism is so
so
far and wide that it's kind of like, because people always go, but you don't look like you've got autism, and you're like, well, what does a person with autism look like? And that's that glass ceiling that we need to kind of shatter, that autism isn't a look, it's just a behaviour. It's the way in which their brain functions.
Their brain works differently, and they see the world differently, and it doesn't mean that they're different to anybody else, but it's just their brain just wired differently, and they see the world differently. So people just need to just understand that.
Teenaging years is for me was really challenging, because sometimes I used to say, is it the hormones kicking in, or is it autism? And this is where sometimes I didn't really always understand certain behaviours. So this is where
this is the challenge that I'm going to be coming up against, because my son has a love of women.
Right. Okay.
No, it's a very bad love of women. So I really made the decision he's going to a boys' school, because I'm not going to have him. He's fallen in love with his TA and wanted to buy her flowers.
Wow.
He's professed love to her, and told her to bring her husband in because he needs to talk to him.
Oh, wow.
He just has a love of women, and I just think I don't think him going to a girls' school will go down well when the hormones kick in. He will never learn anything. So I'm thinking of a boys' school, but at the same time, I find that he clashes with boys, because boys are quite boisterous, and he doesn't have that full-on communication skill to communicate.
So for both of you, do you not worry about how both of your kids, when they're gonna have to fly the nest soon, or one day when they have to leave, do you worry about how they're gonna communicate to others?
My thing more is more not my child, but trusted environment. That's what my main concern. So my daughter is very confident. She don't like something, she's telling you. But she's very, because I'm always threatening her. You're going, you're leaving. She's of age now.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
I always call her Miss Princess because in my household, I've got adults that live with me, but I spoil them all.
Yeah.
And I spoil her. And I don't know how she would really cope living in the real world. And I'm still preparing her.
Okay.
I'm still doing it. But at the same time, she shocks me. She surprises me all the time because she has it independence. If she wants to do something, she'd say, yeah, I went out and I got it. Or I spoke to a person. Or could always say to her, come back and tell me or speak to me. But she doesn't.
Just goes and does that.
She just does her own thing. Yeah. And it is a concerning because she doesn't speak up.
Okay.
That's what the concern is. She won't phone me or ask. Now, my biggest fear for her as an adult, and everyone's different, is eating. And I've had to threaten her. I've had to put a timer in. If I do not cook the food, I was spoiling her, cooking the food, calling her, dishing it out. It's on the table. She's taking it for granted. And I said, no, not doing that. So if I don't cook the food and call her for the food, she's quite full. Yeah. But she's in the holiday, she lost weight. She stopped eating.
Because you're not doing it.
I said, I'm not doing it. So I put a timer on, and I said to her, I said, you're going to be 30 soon. 2 more years, you're 30. But you're 28 now. Come on. And I said, we can't have it no more. Because I said to her, I'm going to move her to my mum's house. Just a break for me, even.
Yeah.
Because I have gone away and I've left her and I put food in there. And I thought that's up to you. I've provided everything. But she's more on fault, and I have to constantly do it. It's just like a confidence, because she works. My daughter works.
I said she can do it.
So she can do it.
But
yes,
it's
just taking it for granted. Yeah. So she's got the ability, but I just think with the children with autism, I believe they've got the ability, but it's constantly being consistent. Consistent.
But I also think sometimes as mums, and Daniel says this to me all the time, that they do play us like fiddle.
Listen, I've seen it with my own eyes, My little nephew, he's so cute and cuddly next year, so unless he will do something, or his sister will do something, and he'll call mum, and then I'll watch him, and Ness will cuddle him, and he'll look at, and he'll be like, he'll stick his tongue out or something, and I'm like, Ness, he's playing you, and he's like, I'm like, bruv, stop crying, there's nothing wrong with you, like, and then Ness will look at him, start crying, I say, brother, stop crying, and then he start laughing, like, when Ness is not looking, like, I said, Ness, let's not leave him alone, so he works, they do.
But the thing is, what I say to Daniel is, I am very aware that I know Reese is very smart, and I know he plays me like a fiddle. But my anxiety, first and foremost, when I had Reese, was, I'll be completely honest, raising a black man in this society, right? That was my fear, just raising a black man in this society.
Yeah, that 100%.
And then to put another cap on it. A young man who has autism, that just put my anxiety through the roof, right?
I probably would be the same. Yeah.
Because it's a case of people who see our kids don't see us. What I see, what you might see, the general public doesn't see, right?
Definitely.
So when your child has autism or has an unseen disability, because it's an unseen disability, right? People prejudge or make judgments without even getting to know that kid.
Everybody's got their disability. So the world is that everybody's got a disability, and because you're able to hold it down a bit better than someone else, doesn't mean you should look at someone a bit differently because they might not act the same way as you. So,
but then that's society, right?
Yes.
But if you throw on, we already know how hard it is with ethnic minorities, kind of swerving through. I work in education, and I battle it all the time, right? So I'm always the vocal one. When it comes to my young black boys in school, yes, I am the one that will speak up to them and speak to their parents on what they need to be doing. Because some of us are blinded on what our rights are when it comes to our kids in school, right?
Do you think schools need to like notify kids more about autism, because I went to Stokenewington,
Yeah.
and there was no autism month or nothing like that. There was no like.
I don't think.
Anything about autism.
If I'm honest, schools more so now know more. There are more and more
Yeah.
children being diagnosed. So in schools now, you will see a lot more work being done
Yeah.
with children with autism, and you will have autism awareness in schools. So I can't knock schools now, because I think the pastoral care in schools now is second to none. But I think as a parent, you've got to know your kid, and you've got to see what best fits them and how that child is going to grow there. You know, for me, I have to let go of my anxieties and know that he's going to be okay.
For me in school, I had to come to a place, because as I said, I didn't work during the time. I'd done kind of like part-time little work, but I couldn't have a full-time job. But for me in schools, looking at the school with education, I looked at it as a skill for my daughter. Is GCSEs always so important? That was one thing, because I had to measure it. Is it social aspect or is it academic aspect? Certain subjects she was good in, so she did get some two GCSEs. That's one thing. Socially, I had to look at it. This is an area where she can develop socially as well. So as I said, for me, mainstream school is getting out what the school can give you. That's one thing. But I will say, my daughter with autism, she's my first child. She's the biggest gift to me.
Definitely.
Biggest gift to me, because she's prepared me for life, given me so much skills, being much more versatile, not narrow-minded, opened up my mind, being a better person, being a better parent as well. And I just think, as challenging as it is, these children are a real gift. Yeah,
wouldn't change
wouldn't change it at all.
All right, so we have to wrap up the show now. So, anything you want to say for the other parents out there going through, might think that they're on their own, or think there's no light at the end of the tunnel? Are there any inspiring words you want to leave us with?
I think
Both Evette and Vanessa.
I think that the inspiration is exactly what Evette has just said.
Yeah.
You know, it is challenging, but your children are gifts.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a growth for both of you. It's a journey for both of you. And there is no right or wrong answer. You know, there are websites out there.
So much
There is
information.
help out there.
Yeah, there is.
You know, but enjoy the journey, and don't try to find a fix. There isn't a fix.
There's no
You
fix.
know?
No one knows.
Yeah,
the right
but there is no
right.
fix in parenting. Full
Full
stop.
stop.
There you go. So everyone try to get it right.
It is a scary journey when you think this is a continuous journey, but I wouldn't say it's something. When I first thought about autism, the labelling, and I thought my child's got a disability for life, but going through that journey, it's not so narrow.
Yeah,
Is that
it's not daunting.
It's about learning about themselves and learning about yourself. So
Well, thank you for having both of you on the show, Evette and Vanessa. It was a pleasure having you on the show today and sharing your experiences with everyone, me and everyone else who will be listening to the podcast. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, honestly, it's been great. It's been great having to see your perspective of your children and that as well. Like, understanding.
Thank you for having us.
yeah, it's a
You're
pleasure.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.